Hi, welcome back to this second uiZ tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to be talking about the parent system. It is crucial that you understand this system because you will use it to create the UI structure in uiZ. If you look for example at this window, you can see it has an X button and it has some text in it. If I were to move the window and I would drag it, all of the text and the button would move with the window. So we can kind of say that the text and the button is anchored to the window. Now this counts for way more elements. For example, the minimap and the resource overview are both inside of this bottom bar. In the resource overview, we have separate sections for food, wood and stone. So we can structure UI in this way by putting things inside of other things. That's a very important and powerful concept which is at the core of uiZ. This tutorial we are going to keep it simple. We are going to create one big square and put a different square inside of it. That is not a very useful UI, but I need to show it to you for you to understand the system. So let's start in our empty tutorial object and let's see what we can do. First, initialize uiZ using uiZ init. Then we're going to create a gradient square. Okay, cool. Now we can set the size and position of our gradient. And then finally we can fix it. Now you can see a simple gradient square. In this case, the gradient is not inside of any other object. Well, that is actually false because it is inside of another object. It's just invisible. So it's called the uiZ controller and it is kind of the parent of all objects. So every time you create an object, it is put inside of the uiZ controller, which is as large as your entire game window, as you can see here. Now though, we want to create a square that we don't put inside of the controller, but we want to put it inside of the gradient. So let's do that. Okay, let's set the parent. To do this, we use the uiZ setParent function. So as the first argument, we give it the object that we want to put inside of something. And as the second argument, we give it the object that we want our first object to be put inside of. So in this case, the square will be put inside of the gradient. Okay, now let's set up position and size. And then finally fix it. Now in this example we see our square being put inside of the gradient square. Notice that with our position we specified 25 pixels by 25 pixels. Our gradient however has a position of 50 pixels by 50 pixels, which is twice as high as 25 pixels. Yet the square is farther to the right and to the bottom than the gradient square. That is because our square is inside the gradient square. So this 25 pixels by 25 pixels is not from the absolute zero of our game, but rather from the 0 point of our gradient square. So this is 25 pixels by 25 pixels and this is 50 by 50 pixels. So in the end, we could place our gradient anywhere and the white square would be anchored at the exact same position within the gradient square. Now I need to teach you some more terminology. When we are talking about the gradient and the square and the relationship between those objects, we say that the gradient is the parent and the square is the child. But just like in a regular family, a child can have another child, and then the child is also a parent of the child. So you can create a structure almost like a family tree. And like a family tree, you cannot be your own grandpa or your own father. So what I wouldn't be able to do is call this. But I put the gradient inside of the square after I've put the square inside of the gradient. This will crash the game. In real life, that would only be possible with a time travel paradox, and we don't have those in uiZ. So that was the tutorial. You learned how parenting works in abstract, what a child is, what a parent is, how to assign parents in code using uiZ setParent, and that you should not create a circular parent-child structure. Okay, Until next tutorial, where we will look at more different positioning types.